Ladies and gentlemen, in my last video of building Freddy Fazbear's Mega Pizzaplex from Security Breach in Minecraft, we constructed all 3 Princess Quest minigames and made them functional with the use of command blocks. All of the features of the minigames were built in, giving the player the sense of playing Security Breach itself inside of Minecraft. However, in today's video we are going to be moving on to the second arcade minigame and building all the stages of Monty's mini golf. If you guys are excited for this video, then make sure you leave a like on it and subscribe with notifications on so that way you don't miss out on all future uploads and can help the channel to continue to grow. So without any further ado, let's get started on the minigame. So just like with the Princess Quest minigames, this arcade is going to be completely functional with the use of command blocks and some other Minecraft features. However, this time instead of a free roam adventure minigame, Monty Golf puts the player in the perspective of the golf ball. So my solution to this was to make the player be the golf ball once again and move around the golf course with ender pearls. This keeps the feeling of playing as the ball, but also adds some strategy to the game as players will need to calculate their throws to reach the goal. But now as the functionality of the minigames all planned out and all 9 courses outlines are in place, we can now go ahead and get started with the build. So we're going to stop the building for the time being and take a look at what's happened so far. So as you can see, stages 1 through 4 have all been built in and are ready to get the command blocks installed to actually make this game functional, just like in Security Breach. Once again, it might seem like a huge challenge to make a working minigame within Minecraft, however this honestly might just be easier than the 3 Princess Quests. So let's go ahead and take a look at the commands that we'll need for this build. So believe it or not, this tiny chain of 2 command blocks is actually all that is needed to get the player to act like a golf ball. The way this works is we have this first command block here, which detects whether or not there is an ender pearl in the player's inventory. When it detects that there's an ender pearl in the inventory, it will send out this output here, which goes into this command block, which gives the player the ender pearl. So if we go ahead and activate the commands like this, so now we have an ender pearl, which is renamed golf ball. Now we only want the player to have one golf ball at a time, because otherwise they'll end up teleporting all around the map to their own wishes. So let's say if we use the ender pearl, I'll go ahead and throw it. The command will go off and we get another golf ball just like that. So it's a bit of a charge sequence really. So I know when you use an ender pearl you have a little bit of cooldown. However, this just makes it so that the player cannot do any more messing around. So you can see we throw the ender pearl and a little bit later we get another one, and we might actually make the delay a bit longer. Just having 2 4-tick repeaters might not be enough, but this is really all that is needed to get the player to move around the golf course. Just because these are the main command blocks that are needed to make this place function, there's still a lot more things we need to add, such as making sure players that aren't actually playing this minigame are not given ender pearls randomly exploring the pizzaplex. So there's a few things we need to add, as well as making sure that once the player has entered the goal, they are then able to teleport to the next course and able to progress throughout the minigame. So the next commands that I want to put in place are the actual entrance to the minigame itself. We know that Princess Quest has its little entrance title, however this one's going to work a bit different. So every time the player enters a new course, they're going to have an overview of the entire map here. So what we're going to go ahead and do is take a coordinate of a little box up here, so that way the player starts playing the minigame, they get to see an overview of the entire golf course like this, and are then teleported down at the bottom there. So we're just going to go ahead and make sure we get the right coordinates for this. So I believe that the player is going to be teleported at this block here. We then want to make sure we give the player enough time to scout out the golf course. So we're going to do a few delays with repeaters here. Let's just go all the way to the end, so that way we give the player enough time before they're eventually teleported to the start of the minigame at this coordinate right here. So if we go ahead and test this out, so if we go ahead and push this button, we get to scout out the golf course for a few seconds before we get teleported to the start of the golf course. However, at the moment, as you can see, we are able to freely move around, so we can just go ahead and walk into the goal. That is not what we want. So the way this is going to work is we're going to give the player a slowness effect and also a negative jump boost, so that way it is impossible for the player to move freely. So we'll go ahead and put in a slowness potion like this, and this is what the jump boost command looks like. Now this one is a bit different than the slowness command, as this time we want the jump boost to give the player a negative effect. So you can see currently that the status is at 128, so if we take that command block and go ahead and give ourselves that jump boost, you can see, or maybe not be able to see, I cannot jump. I mean, unless I start flying around because I'm in creative, apart from that I cannot currently jump, and that is exactly what we want from the players, because we don't want them to be able to move freely around the map. And then the final thing to do was just to link the 2 command block chains together. So now if we go ahead and click this button here, you will see that we get teleported to the golf course. We can go ahead and look around for a minute, and then we are able to play the minigame. So this is just the basic few commands of how this minigame works. Of course, there's going to need to be a few more commands that actually teleport the players to the next section of the minigame as they go along. However, before we get into any of that, we still have all of these 5 courses left to build. So I think it's best that we actually go ahead, finish up the build, and then we can put all of our focus into the command block. So let's go ahead and finish up the building of Monty's mini golf. And with that, all 9 mini golf courses have been built in, and we are now ready to start plugging in all of the commands that make this place functional, as there is still a lot of work that needs to be done here, such as making some of the props in the courses move, and of course we need the commands that take the player to the next level once they've scored. We'll go ahead and start with stage 3, as this stage has moving cupcakes that swing across the hallways that try to stop the player from advancing. So with a few clone commands and hopefully the right coordinates plugged in, we should be able to make this minigame a lot more immersive. Here is all the work that goes behind the moving of the cupcakes that swing across the hallway. You can see here we have 5 frames. This is really similar to the doors that are around the Pizzaplex. Each frame is a different movement of what we want. So for example here, we have the cupcake that swings across the hallway. So every frame of this build has the cupcake moving 1 block further away and eventually goes back to cover up the path here. So this command block chain over here, once turned on, we'll go ahead and repeat the cycle so that way the cupcakes are constantly swinging from one side to another. So now you can see with the command blocks turned on, you can see that the cupcakes swing from one side of the hallway all the way to another. So this is going to make it so that the player is going to have to time their shots to be able to get to the end of this hallway to make it to the goal using as few ender pearls as possible. So with stage 3 now completed, we can now move on to stage 5, where this time instead of having things swing from one side to another, we actually have these rotating cakes that are going to be spinning at 90-degree angles. So right now you can see they're both facing forward, but we want them to be able to rotate that block the player from progressing once again. So this should be the exact same thing. All we need to do is build these cakes at a 90-degree angle, and then they're going to turn using a loop of command blocks. And just like that, you can now see that the cakes are now rotating at 90-degree angles the exact way that we wanted it. And the commands for this one couldn't have been more simple. It was a lot less complicated than the cupcake swinging across the hallway. You can see that these 4 command blocks are taking these 2 snapshots here and are just pasting them in the middle of this golf course. Nothing too complicated at all. So now what I'm going to go ahead and do is fill in the rest of the animated props around the different courses, as you really don't need to see the same clone commands installed in every level. So I'm going to go ahead and get those all filled in, and then we can finish up with the final commands for this build. So with a few more clone command blocks out of the way, with all the animations for every prop are in place, and the building side of this minigame is now all completed. So let's go ahead and see the new things that have been added. Now, while not an animation, I thought it would be fitting to add the giant Monty hologram statue that is up on this main stage. I honestly thought that this turned out better than I could have done. You know, I didn't build all of these statues on the main atrium show stage just because I wasn't sure of how this would turn out. But honestly, for the time being, I'm pretty proud of the way this Monty hologram turned out, and I think it's going to be a good addition to this build. Moving on to animations, however, you can see here that this elevator in the Circus Baby minigame has the working elevator that goes up and down occasionally. I'm really glad that this doesn't just glitch out and you can start seeing some blocks glitching out in different places, and it all loads in this smooth animation when it goes up and down. Really proud of the way this one turned out. And not all the animations are gigantic like that either. Just these smaller fans here that are spinning in the vent repair section turned out really well. Once again, this is a simple 2-frame stop motion here. You can see we have the plus sign and then we have the X sign, but it still gives the illusion that these blades are spinning around. So with all that out the way, with the entirety of the building for Monty's mini golf minigame is now all completed, the only thing that remains to do are the command blocks that actually get the player to each different level. So let's go ahead and add in all the command blocks needed to finish up with this build. And now, with every command block in its proper place, we now have a functioning Monty mini golf arcade machine inside of Minecraft. So of course you can find the minigame arcade machine in the middle of Monty's mini golf, and if we go ahead and take a look at the commands underneath, you will be able to recognize that this is the exact same execute command system that we've used for the Princess Quest minigames, and of course all the save stations scattered around the Pizzaplex. So once the player hits the button on the arcade machine, it will set block a redstone block right here, which starts all the command systems that gets the minigame up and running. So of course we have all of our jump boost commands, we have the redstone wire which activates the system over here, which actually gives the player the ender pearl, and of course we have some other features like setting the time to midnight, so that way we can make the minigame a little bit more atmospheric. After that, you can now see that all of the progression commands have been installed, letting the player be able to teleport throughout the entire golf course. So let's just go ahead and take a look at a few of them. Of course we have the commands and the coordinates for the different courses around the map, and we have the different subtitles that will appear on the screen when the player enters the new level, except this time instead of doing it on the middle of the screen, it's just going to be right above the action bar, so you can see it doesn't take up the entire screen. It just goes ahead and shows a little bit of a text right above the inventory. And finally, the last example I will show off is in the final stage of the mini golf itself. So if we go ahead and make the final goal, you will see that it will teleport us back to the arcade mini game where we started once again. And I have made this mini game be able to be replayable, so that way once you've played it once, you are then able to replay it as many times as you would like. So with all the command blocks completed, we now have a completely functional working minigame inside of Minecraft. This was definitely a little less challenging than Princess Quest was, however I probably had a whole lot more fun building all of the arcade stages, as there was such a difference between all the different stages of this mini golf, and putting it all together was definitely a whole lot of fun. The final thing I want to say before we get into the gameplay is that I did add in some light blocks around the courses of the minigame, so hopefully the scenery can be enjoyed a whole lot more, and especially if a shader pack is being used. But with all that being said, hopefully you guys all enjoy the gameplay. But ladies and gentlemen, that is going to wrap it up for today's video. I really hope that you guys enjoyed, as a lot of time and effort went into this part of the build, and I couldn't be more happy with the ending results. If you did enjoy this video, then make sure you leave a like on it and subscribe to the channel with notifications on, so that way you don't miss out on all future uploads and can help the channel to continue to grow. But hopefully you guys did enjoy, and I will of course see you in my next video.